Hello CG traders, how you doing? This is Guido Brola. I am a professional designer and digital artist and the winner of two different challenges here on CGTrader. The Character Challenge in the Best Portfolio category and the 2013 Christmas Challenge in the Best Model category. Welcome to my studio. Today I want to show you how to create, very quickly and simply, a nice crab model using Zbrush and a powerful tool called Dynamesh. This technique is very useful in design when you have to create organic shapes such as that of jewelry design, for example. It's a sort of 3D sketching, but at the end of the process you have not only a sketch but a 3D model that is ready to be printed and touched with your hand. So let's get started. Okay, so here we are inside ZBrush. The first thing I'm going to do is add in a simple primitive, in this case a 3D sphere. And the only operation I want to do on this sphere is to scale it on the vertical axis, this way, maybe a little more. And now I can convert this sphere to a polymesh, and immediately I can go and Dynamesh it. Let's spend a couple of words on the Dynamesh tool. Dynamesh is a powerful feature that is able to recalculate the topology of a mesh, dividing it in a number of uniform polygons. In other words, if we start deforming strongly this mesh, what happens is that we have some stretched polygons, as you can see, and if we sculpt on these stretched polygons, the result will be very poor. Okay? By adding a Dynamesh, we can uniformize the dimension of the polygons, and we can easily sculpt on the polygons we have stretched before, because having all the polygons of the same size is the better situation for sculpting purpose. The Dynamesh tool is located here under the Geometry menu. I also have all the Dynamesh controls here on my custom interface. We can set the resolution and then push the Dynamesh button and see what happens. In this case, I want to work with a very low resolution model, so I set the resolution to something like 56. Okay, it seems to be a good resolution. Now I can start pushing and pulling polygons around. I will not use references on screen for this project because I don't need to be too precise. I want to work as quickly and freely as possible in a sort of 3D sketching. We can recall the Dynamesh when we want by clicking and dragging on an empty zone of the screen while holding the control button, this way. I don't have references as an underlay, but I have some crab pictures open in a second monitor that I use as a guide for general proportions. Every time we start a model, not only in ZBrush but with any other modeling program, it's important that we concentrate on the shape, the proportions, the silhouette of the model, and absolutely not on the fine details. We can start defining details only when we are happy with the shape of the model. So at this stage it's always better to work with the resolution that is the lower, that allows us to get the result. Okay, I think it is enough with the shape of the body. Now the next stage will be to identify the place where the legs and the claws connect to the carapace. Let's increase a bit the resolution first, like this. Then I drew a mask in the area where is located the abdomen. Okay. And now I push down the material around this area, just a bit. Okay. Then I invert the mask and inflate the abdomen this way. Now I create a polygroup from this selection because I'm sure that in the near future it will be useful. Creating polygroups is a very powerful way of working in ZBrush. For a model like this, we don't need to create a lot of subtools, just one, but having different polygroups makes the sculpting process a lot easier. A good thing, as you can see, is that when you apply the Dynamesh, it preserves the polygroups. Now in the same way I start modeling the claws using the snake hook brush. And I Dynamesh again. I mask them. And I put them on a different polygroup by clicking on Group Masked. This way I can now shape these claws a lot easier. I continuously move and Dynamesh, move and Dynamesh. The tools that I mostly use at this stage are the Move brush and the Clay Buildup brush, and obviously the Smooth brush. Let's speed up the movie. Okay, just a rough shape. I'm happy for now with the claws. Let's move to the legs. With the legs we can proceed in another way. Just to try a different method, we can use the Curve Tube brush that allows us to simply draw them as curves, this way. But we can do also better. We can modify the shape of the tube under the menu stroke curve modifier, modifying the curve graph like this. And this looks better. Now I can shape it as usual. Now that I'm happy with these two legs, I can clone them using the transpose tool and simply pressing and holding the control button while moving the piece. Then I rotate and scale them. And I do the same for the other ones. For these last two I also make a mirroring, because I want them to point backwards. Okay, now I want to assign a different polygroup to each leg. So to do that, I hide all the rest and press the Auto Group button. Very good. Let me only pose them a bit better now. Okay, now we can start defining the forms and the features of the different parts, and to do that the polygroups we have defined before will come very useful, because we can isolate the part we are working on without affecting the rest of the model, like I'm doing here with the clothes. As before, I use most of the time the clay build-up brush and the move brush. I am looking at some references I have, but I'm not trying to be anatomically perfect, just speed sculpting. To make a separation between the different segments of the claw, I use a mask. Then I pull the material to overlap a bit the masked part. This way it looks like they are two different pieces connected one to each other.
Okay, now we can move to the abdomen. In the same way, having it in a different polygroup allows us to easily mask all the rest and overlap this piece to the legs and create a separation between the parts. Very good. Okay, let's move to the legs now. First of all, I merge these legs on a single polygroup, so I mask the first, mask the second, hide all the rest, and group visible. Then, as you can see, they are of a very low resolution, but having masked the rest of the model, if I now subdivide with Ctrl D, I only subdivide this polygroup. Now they are much dense and I can detail them as I've done with the clothes. I speed up a bit the video now because the process is exactly the same as before. I repeat the process for the other legs. I should have duplicated the legs after detailing them, but doing this way I'm sure that they are different one from each other. I should also duplicate the final version and then modify them a bit, but the time needed is more or less the same. As I've said before, I prefer to have first an idea of the proportion and of the silhouette and then go into detail. Okay, now that the legs are done, I can move to the carapace. So I mask all the rest and start working on it. Here I'm going to detail the mouth area. Here I'm using only the clay build-up brush and a smooth brush, adding some volume and some more details. A little bit of a damp standard brush. move brush. Now with the same tools I'm going to detail the eyes area. For the eyes, I simply add a sphere with symmetry. And I shape it using only the move brush. Okay, now I can recall the Dynamesh to merge the eyes with the rest of the body. And smooth a little bit here and there. Okay, now, being that I don't need the Dynamesh anymore, and I want to pose this model, it's time to retopologize it. So, first of all, I make a duplicate of my crab, and then to retopologize it, I will use a wonderful feature of ZBrush that is called Z-Remesher. Now Z-Remesher is analyzing my model, and it will do the great job of retopologize it entirely by its own. Great. Now I can add some subdivision levels to the model. Then to perfectly match the retopologized model with the Dynamesh one, I can project the Z-Remesh model into the Dynamesh one. And this is it. Then we can delete the Dynamesh duplicate. Now it's time to add some fine details, and a good practice is to put them on a separate layer that I call details. This can be boring, so I speed up the video. Okay, now that the model is fully detailed, I can pose it in a more natural and asymmetric pose. So I start bending the claws and the legs. One thing that we want to be sure is that all the feet are resting on the same plane if we want the model to remain upright when printed. The last thing that we want to do before rendering the model or exporting it to a printable format is to decimate it to reduce the polygon count without losing details. And to do this, we use a Zbrush plugin called Decimation Master that can analyze the model surface and reducing the polygon count by varying the size of the mesh triangles on the base of the details he found. The polygon count is a tenth of what it was before, but we have lost almost nothing in terms of details. This is a rendering of the final model. This whole model takes more or less 1 hour to be completed. Now this model can be painted, exported, animated, printed. Let's 3D print it.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video, that you have learned something useful. As you have seen, this is a very fast workflow to translate your ideas into a physical model. If you check my portfolio on CGTrader, you will find this model. You can download it for free and paint it or print it. And if you want to know something more about my job, you can just subscribe on my YouTube channel or follow me on your favorite social network. Thanks for watching and see you next time.